right. Well, thank you all so much for joining and welcome to BRIC's Animation, Visual Effects, and Gaming Pre-Apprenticeship series. We'll go ahead and get started here. I'm Sarah, for those of you who are joining us maybe for the first time. I'm BRIC's Director of Communications and your moderator for today. And this speaker series from the BRIC Foundation aims to give you an inside look at the variety of careers that exist across animation, visual effects, and gaming industries. Today, we'll be exploring careers in visual effects in particular with our special guest, Neishaw Ali, who is the founding partner, CEO, and executive producer of SPINVFX and sister company Jaxx Creative. You'll hear from Neishaw about her incredible career journey in the film and TV industry that spans nearly 30 years, and about all the various career paths that exist in that world of VFX. We'll have an audience Q&A during the last 15 minutes of the session, so make sure to use that Q&A function at the bottom of your window to submit any questions you might have along the way for Neishaw. But with that, Neishaw, please feel free to take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, guys and gals. I hope you're ready for a very entertaining session. I'm not going to be a talking head for 45 minutes. No, because I'm going to show you some great visuals because I know that that's what you guys would love to see. My goal today, let me just screen share so we can get started, and then I will share the agenda with you. Now, I know Sarah said you'll hear from me about my 30 years experience in this industry, but we don't have a lot of time for me to go through the years and the ups and downs, the challenges, the successes, or anything like that. But what I want to do is share with you so that when you leave today, you will start thinking about your future and you will think, wow, I can get a freaking awesome career and do great things. If I'm a creator, I can create. If I'm a technologist, I can build great things. I can program. I can work on systems. And if I'm a filmmaker and want to be in front of, or if I'm an actor and want to be in front of the camera, I can do all of that. So my goal today is to inspire you guys as you go about your next leg of journey. All right, so let me share with you my screen and then we can get started. Pankti, are we good here? Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. Well, today I will walk you through what it's like to be in the visual effects industry and talk about, first of all, I want to show you Spin's demo reel. I've been at Spin for 30 years and we've come from commercial production, branched out into feature film, and then into television series. I think to date, I've worked on over 200 feature films and about 40 or so television series. So let's just say I've seen a lot and I work with a great and talented team, and I feel so fortunate. And so I will show you our demo reel so you can get a sense of our work and, what we've done. Then I want to walk you through and show you, what the movie making industry is all about. But I'm not going to take too long. I want to show you from when you've received a script, what happens? What are the big major processes that happens until you go into the movie theaters and watch that film on screen? Then we're going to do a deep dive into the type of roles that exist in visual effects. So things like, whether if you're a creative person or if you're a technical person, or if you're a numbers guy or gal, we'll show you what jobs might be available for you that you could enjoy. And after that, we'll take some questions. So right now, we'll get started on Spin's demo reel that I love to show off the hard work of all of our team. Here we go, guys. Enjoy. Now that was just a small few minutes reel for some of the work, our recent work, but we've got tons of great, great breakdowns that of the jobs that we've done in the previous year. So hope you had fun in watching that, and hope some of you saw some images and thought, oh, I want to do that. That was hope the goal of that, showing you that. Now I'll walk you through, what it takes to get a script from, saying for it to be greenlit through to getting it on screen. So at this stage, when a script has been greenlit, you are, the first thing that gets created is the writer's room. Because in this room, a story may be adapted from books, and therefore it's got to be adapted for, our medium, which is for film or television. So the writer's room allow you to go in and, there's sticky notes everywhere. They try to figure out how are we going to make this, turn this into a film, this book into a film. Or it may be an original script from someone's imagination, but again, there's still room for it to be refined, to make it cinematic, to make it provocative, to draw you, the audience, in. So that's what this room, it's a very, very important room, because after this, you now have to decide, the producers of the show or studio will then have to go into budgeting it. Can we afford this? What does this mean? And what does the scheduling mean? So in this, after the script is ready to be budgeted, they now have to determine, well, where do we want to shoot this? What do we need to go on location? Do we need to go to LA? Do we need to go to Australia, London, or do we need Toronto, as it the case might be? That's what is decided. And then based on that, they set about budgeting two areas of production, two main areas, which is the physical production, so where they're going to shoot and what it would cost for the talent, and for all the on-set work, what sets they want to build, and then also the visual effects, how much visual effects depending on how complex this type of movie is. And after that, then they set about creating the schedule. The schedule is very important because you have to have everything in place and everything done so that you're ready to start shoot. So when the schedule is in place and you have a rough schedule, then all the departments get together at what you call many, many pre-production meetings, and you sit down, and this is where you're in a an oblong table, because there are many, many departments. You'll have the costume designers, you'll have the visual effects team, you'll have the stunts team, you'll have the caterer, you'll have the camera peeps. So many departments, and each talk about their own section and what they're going to build out, what they're going to create, how they're going to create the most cinematic angles for the director. And the director is the one that's leading this. And after that is settled, then there's still budgets are getting refined as you go along, because, a few months ago what you budgeted and now you're in actual practice, things change, as you know, from week to week. So month to month, availability might change, and people, all of that. So that is the budgeting gets more refined. So at every production meeting, we narrow and narrow, and you set up, you schedule, you change, each department, it is so important that they all collaborate and they figure out, you do what's best for the movie. It's not about your own department. You have to think about what something you do here will impact another department. So you have to draw them in, and you have to work together for the greater good. It is very important that you have that attitude. After that is done, then the magic begins. And this is the magic of the shoot. And this is where all your hard work now comes to bear. And we usually call this part principal photography. And this is where it's like, some would say it's like a choreographed dance where everyone knows their position and they just move to it. You don't have time for decision making because the decision making was already done. So this is a very, very important step. Everybody knows their parts and you go, some are in front of the camera, as with the actors, and we, like visual effects, are behind the camera. And we do our part to make sure that all the elements, all the plates, everything that we need to shoot are captured within that moment. And so that at the end of it, when post-production begins, we will be able to then do our part to create the beautiful magic and make the film whole. So after shooting finishes, the most important thing for the director after is his director's cut or her director's cut. And there's a minimum of 10 weeks in some cases that a director will spend. That's not never enough time. But he or she is trying to make the best version, cut the best version of the movie. And that's why the editor is extremely critical to the successful storytelling. And when that is set up and the director is finished and as happy as he can be, because I'm sure he could go on or she could go on for another 5-6 weeks, but time is never our friend. Uh, the producer, that is sent to the producer, and the producers take a look at it, and you hope and pray that they love it so that we can head into post-production, where the finaling of the movie begins, which is, visual effects continue in earnest because now we have approved lock plates, as we call it, to work with. And that way we can, if we're creating a movie about creatures, or if we're creating a whole new world, building out a whole new world, we would have already started in building out that world, but now we're putting, what was shot into this whole new world. So this is the part that is very critical to the finaling of the movie. This is where music gets selected, sound design, they color the movie so it has one uniform look across. And then it gets sent out to all the different places for showtime, when you, the audience, will go in and sit back and enjoy the fruits of all of our labors. And I wonder if you ever thought about how many people are actually involved in creating this film. It could be as little as 300 or 1,200, depending on how large the film is, and working tirelessly on every single frame of every image you see there. So it's a very wonderful, collaborative, camaraderie kind of process, because to understand the director's vision and to be able to bring that to life on screen is not easy. But when it's done and everyone's happy, it's like woo woo. You just feel amazed and you form great friendships. So, in a nutshell, that is how a movie gets taken from script to what you see on screen. Now, as I said, let's talk visual effects and let's talk about, that's what I've lived and breathed for about 20 years on this side. Even though I've been in production for 30 years, 10 of those years I spent working in commercials, developing commercials, 30-second, 60-second commercial. And 20 years ago, we decided we were going to venture out of that and at Spin and move into feature film, and which is, 90 minutes or sometimes 60 minutes. And we've never looked back. And I still feel like a kid in a candy store every time we finish a film and look back and see all the work, all the efforts, and enjoy it with the team. So the magic has never been taken away yet from me, and I hope it never does. So how does visual effects work? You could be working on a feature film that has, 300 shots or 2,500 shots or 4,000 shots. that is very complex. And therefore, you have to have a very, very sound pipeline and production process. Because it's no good if, as a company, you are highly talented and you've got, great talented people, and you lack production process, because then you won't be able to deliver your film. So creative and the production process and budgets all have to work together. So no one thing is more superior than the other. The creative may get you in the door because everyone, that is very important. But if you cannot deliver your show, then who would want to work with you? So in visual effects, production management is head up by two people, the VFX supervisor and the VFX producer. The VFX supervisor has to understand the creative vision of the director and know how to work with our artists internally in order to deliver that vision on screen. And it's not an easy process, but it's great. It's wonderful to be able to, work and deliver that vision, and when the director is happy. If the director is not happy, then we just got to go back to the drawing board and, expand our brains and get it right. It happens. VFX producer, on the other hand, has to manage the budget, manage the schedule. He or she also have to understand the creative vision, because her and the VFX supervisor and producer have to work hand in hand. They have to share the same disciplines and understanding and passion and love for the show, because their attitude and how they work permeates the entire team. And you want a team that is ambitious, want to do great work, wouldn't compromise on quality, and would give more, because that's when you get the best result. And you can see it on screen when that happens. A production manager is very integral and works hand in hand with the VFX producer, because they manage the schedule, work even more directly with the artist to make sure that all the elements that they need, and there's nothing that they are waiting on, and there's timely attention to notes and details. And the production coordinator is a great entry level position to visual effects company, because you will work across all departments and you will have the benefit of learning from your production manager, producer, and VFX supervisor. And that is a great position to be in, because then as a coordinator or a PA, you can determine which department you even want to work in. So, and you get to see the whole, how the cookie is being made, and you have to make sure that, and you can then handpick where you want to go and where you want to put your energies into and what you love. So I say, for production management, it's not for everyone. But if you're passionate about working with artists and understanding people, and the soft skills and positive attitude that goes along with that, if you have that, then you're a natural. You can learn the software, you can even learn the production process. But if you don't have patience, and if you don't, you have to deal with everyone in an honorable fashion. And you have to understand that their time it's all personal, right? It's not, oh, this is just a job. Visual effects is not just a job, because it is personal. You are pouring your heart and soul into this beautiful imagery. And so words matter. And to maintain a healthy environment, just understanding what someone is going through and helping them through that is very, very important. So this is a very critical production part of the production. And that's why I put it at the top. Now, when you have this and you move into the actual visual effects pipeline, because you're managing this pipeline, we have more than 10 departments in visual effects, but I don't have enough time to walk you through all of that. So I've picked the key departments that to show you, what maybe one of you will say, wow, I'm perfect for that role because I love animation, or I want to create the impossible. So I want to be in matte painting or concept design. So hopefully this gives you a taste of what visual effects can do and what your role can be within it. And we can always dig deep later if you need more. So we'll first start out with concept design. Now, in concept design, when there's a script being written, there are pages for you to read. And when you read those pages, you get to go and dream up what the writers were thinking and create that design. So here, as you can see, we've created these different concept designs. And these are all, flat, like 2D designs. You can hand paint it. You can, work in Photoshop, and you can get, you can pull those elements together. Or alternatively, you could also create a concept design in 3D if you are so inclined. So let me play this for you. So here's a concept design that we created for Ant-Man, a Marvel show. So this is the world we were creating, this whole world. That's the world. Now I will show you. This is the world inside the world, what we built for the Ant-Man show. Okay. So as you can see, it is, there are many things you can do in concept design. So for a designer, world's your oyster. You can do anything. Then next, we'll move into tracking. Now, tracking is a very critical part of the process. It's the first stage, actually. When you finish shooting, your cut is locked. Then you want to turn it over to visual effects so we can put our movie making magic to it. But in order for us to do that, we need to be able to understand, to create this way of working so that our CG creatures can actually be lined up and placed exactly where they're supposed to be. Because if it's not where it's supposed to be, then we would not be able to, then you will think about, oh, that looks off. Why is it off? Let me show you visually what I mean. So we deconstruct this plate so that we can, in order to put in our CG element. For the rest of the series, I've used SpongeBob. I'm not sure if anyone loves SpongeBob here. I hope you do because it's so fun. But we work on the latest SpongeBob movie, and I've used that throughout here to demonstrate visual effects that was done in order to show you what your role could possibly be. So let's take a look. So as you can see, the live action plate was shot with the dog running, and we needed to put our CG of SpongeBob and Sandy in there. So the dog was basically chasing. So in order for us to do that, we had to track this plate to make sure that we could get correct alignment and to be in the lines side of the dog. And that's what that did, as you can see. All right, so that's what tracking is about. You're the first part of the pipeline. Next, we go to layout. Now, if we want to create a whole new world or, build out if you shot a green screen plate, and basically a green screen plate is what you're seeing here right now on this slide. There was this, welcome to Galveston, and there's a green screen behind it. So everything behind it, we were putting in as CG. And again, in order to do that, we had to create this layout so it lines up properly. This is all about making sure it all feels right. And here is what we did. That's a green screen. And then we were putting in this water park. Again, similar to tracking, but it's a layout format. Next, we get to matte painting. And as I said before, in matte painting, we can do two things. We can take one of your plates and we can augment the plate with, different things. So in this first image here, we put in a water park with, as you can see, the parking lot as well. We put that in there. And in this image down here, which I will show you as well, we create this. This is a whole world that we created. So let me show you this one first of all. And there's Sandy flying and SpongeBob flying away. So as you can see, this is the plate that was shot. And then this is what we created. This was the end result. They shot a beautiful plate. And then we augmented by putting in the water park with the parking lot, etc., and Sandy flying in. And then this here, now below here, let me show you. This is a whole new world we created for a movie called Signal. And so that was all CG and matte painting. Matte painting created this. And then we build it out in CG. So again, if you're highly creative and want to do this kind of work, that is readily available to you. The next slide, which I'm sure there are many of you who are lovers of animation. And animation is a lot of fun. It's as long as, you are aware of motion and how things relate and what they should be, and you really have to put yourself into it. Actually, our HOD at Spin, Peter Giliberti, he fell in love with animation in high school. And he has worked on Spider-Man and several wonderful shows and came back to work with us at Spin in Toronto. But on this show, our team was charged with creating a library of expressions for SpongeBob. And for those of you who know SpongeBob, he's never still. I mean, this guy transforms. His body is not even, he's the most changeable person. He's like a chameleon. He's changing to shapes and sizes and forms. And so he's quite the challenge because he is never one form. And we'll show you later crowds. We were creating crowds of SpongeBob. And so in this instance, we were creating different types of expression. So for those of you who love animation, you would have a lot of fun with that. We were laughing throughout this show, by the way. Every scene makes you laugh because he's hysterical. So, and that's the final shot. He was coughing up sponge, little spongies. So for those of you who love animation, you have to have a good ear for movement, seamless movement. You have to have an innate understanding because it has to feel naturalistic, even if it's a funny moment. It has to feel right. Next, we go to creature. Again, these are all beautiful visuals, right? If you want to create things, you can create really creepy creatures, like, wakes you up at night, or you can create, fun creatures like SpongeBob. And again, as I told you, SpongeBob is never still. He's always transforming, which is quite a challenge in movies. So we're constantly having to solve for how he's going to, how we were going to deal with his transformation. So here. So in the creature department, you would be building this out. and working very, very closely with our animation team. So when he spits out 10,000, I think it was 10,000 SpongeBobs, tiny SpongeBobs. Next, we go to crowds. And as I mentioned earlier, we were creating all those expressions of SpongeBob. And if you noticed in this scene, you will see different colors. Well, those are all doing different things, and that's why we color code them so that you would know. It's a cue because we give them different levels of movement. So let's play this scene so you can see. So that's ingratiated. That's the final there. Yeah. So this here is the final shot, right? So this is all the movement, just so, it feels organic. And they're being chased by the doggy. And then I wanted to show you outside of SpongeBob, I also wanted to show you, we worked on George Foreman and the boxer, and I want to show you for crowds what you can do, how impactful what you do can be on screen. I'm going to show you some before or afters. When you look at this screen here, you think, wow, we had a lot of people there, right? Well, this was a recreation, so let me show you. When you see the green screen, that's your cue to know that that's what was shot, and then I will show you that later. So yeah, so let me just show you here. That's what was shot, and then that's what we built. That's for crowds. So you can't believe what you see, right? Like right here as well. That was a green screen. That's what was shot. And this is what we built on. Very, very impactful. So you see your work on screen. You see your work on screen. And this is the magic of what visual effects is. And from crowds department, we then go to effects. Well, I mean, you can't, go around town blowing up cars or buildings or anything like that, because that's just not allowed. So we do that through simulations. And even when you're simulating water, so you simulate water, rain, snow, destruction of buildings, and all of that, it's really cool to figure out the real world and then modify it for cinematic reality. And for a show like SpongeBob, even though it is it's a animated in a live action world, you still have to make the challenge was making sure that the water elements that you're adding feel real. So let's take a look at that. That's the final there. So that's in a stylized, environment, or stylized creatures. Now, what if we were to show you in, someone blowing up, snowbanks? I'll show that to you in a second. Here, we worked on this project called Hunter Killer. I want to show this one to you. So now that's more real world, right? So that's what our effects department get to do. So for those of you who like this side of things, then this is something that should be of interest to you. Right, next. Oops. Let's, okay, next we go into lighting. Now, it's important for you to understand the role that lighting plays in a department or on a film. You know, we have our animation, we have our matte painting, we have our effects, then everything all comes together in lighting because in lighting, you simulate the real world light where so it doesn't feel as if it's a staged kind of environment. This is extremely important because without proper lighting, again, everything is so integral and one blends into the other to make what the end result is real. That's what we have to do. So in lighting, we have to make sure that we formulate the proper level of light to bring realism into it. So, you know, in this instance, even though it's you know, CG characters in a CG environment, we still need to make sure that it feels like it belongs there. So in this instance, Sandy, Sandy and SpongeBob, they're running and they're being overtaken by, they're in a drain, by the way. So, so this here, you know, where the water interaction is very important. And then even though this was a live action environment, even though this was a live action environment for the fishy, we were putting this head onto Sue's head into the fish's mouth. And we had to, again, simulate the proper lighting in this environment because that's a CG fish there, obviously, and head, and 3D head. Next, we have compositing. Now, after going through all those departments, everything comes together for the final composite in our compositing department. So this is where we use, I think, you know, we've said it here, Nuke software to bring all the elements together to integrate everything seamlessly. So for example, for Sue Robot, this here is live action. And then we'll show you how we replace her head and put it onto a robot. So all those elements that you see from the previous, that all transferred over to this department to put together now with the lighting, and there she goes. So again, this here is a live action that was shot. She shot with the action, and then we put the body and the head on. So that's what compositing does. Another high, I mean, all the positions are so highly creative in this segment. And you can know the software, but you have to have an eye for creativity. But this is not the end. Even though this is the finaling department for all of our images, we could not survive without systems. You have to have an amazing systems team who are looking at making sure that you have the right speed and so that you can render your shots and things are not backlogged and there's backups and your system is operational, and it's so integral and important, especially now that we're also remote. You know, you're in studio one day, you're remote one day, you know, this is not working, that's not working. They have to be able to troubleshoot. We could not survive without our system teams, or they're hand in hand with our production team. Then without R&D and pipeline, where would we be? because we need shortcuts. We need something to work with. If you have a 2400 shot show, how the heck are you going to track it? I don't have photographic memory. I wish I did. But two people maybe or 10 people may have it. So we need to make sure that we are tracking things properly, notes are taken, and anyone can come in. If someone is away ill, someone else can come in and take over. And our pipeline provides that. Our R&D team keeps us relevant because we need to know, we need efficiencies, we need optimization, we need to know what's the latest and greatest out there. And as young graduates, you're going to be young graduates very soon, and you're going to be the next generation of filmmakers and technicians and creators out there. You need to know what is the latest and greatest technology so that you are ready, set, go for the new era that is about to happen over the next 5 years, and which is where AI comes in. It is honestly astonishing today what AI can do. Now, there's a lot of things it cannot do, but as an artist, you should know what it can do and take advantage of it. Because why not? It's available to you. And if you don't, in order to be relevant for the future, you need to be able to do that. So for example, I want to show you here. This is computer generated. Now you are the artist and you're doing the inputting, right? And I believe that AI can be used to automate, tasks that are tedious that nobody wants to do anyways. Why would you waste your precious time doing that when you could be highly creative? And if you can use AI to generate things and automate things for you, why wouldn't you? So please, if there's one takeaway you take from this lesson, please learn about the new technology that's out there so that you can use it to your best advantage and work on so that you can bring more enjoyment into your day-to-day life. So for example, with this, as you can see, these are all 3D images, and Midjourney, Luma AI, and it were used in developing this. Look at all of this. And you should learn how to use them as well. Let me take you through here, this one. It's used in gaming a lot too, right? But for feature film, certain quality is not there, but it can get you some of the way. So you should take a look at that, especially for ideation, to visually show something quickly to directors and producers and get everyone visually on the same page instead of just talky talk. It's a wonderful way to go. So let me. Next, I want to show you, here are a bunch of software that you should be aware of. As young adults, these are softwares that you can use. And whereas in the past, in order to be a creative person, you had to learn how to sketch and how to draw photorealism. Today, you don't have to know how to do that in order to be a creative person. You need to know image to video generation, image to 3D model. These softwares are all out there for you to use. And there are limitations to them, but boy, are they a great kickstart. So I hope you have a great impression of what visual effects can do. For my next slide, I want to show you some of the work that we did on SpongeBob. And as we get to the end of my presentation. Oh, not sure why the sound isn't working on this. No, sorry guys, I don't know why the sound isn't working, but the images doesn't change. Even without sound, it's funny. There's Sue Robot. So this is to show you our breakdown of how we would create SpongeBob. And yeah, his hands can do all of that. Well, I think we're done with the presentation. I would love to take any questions you may have.
Neishaw, thank you so much for walking us through that pipeline from pre to post production. It was so magical to see how much VFX can build onto what's already filmed in principle, or even what's animated onto 2D with SpongeBob. So that was really amazing to see the process and the breakdown behind everything. You could really tell how much passion was, given all of these crews and all of these
Yeah.
productions.
No, for sure. The team, the artists, when they love what they do, you feel it in the work and the care, and it just makes for an amazing production. That's why for our team here, our graduates or about to be graduates, you have to have the passion and the fire in your belly. Because if you don't, then don't do it, because there are dark days. And when those dark days come around and you dig deep because you love what you do, and then when you've delivered a show, you can look back and be so proud. That's the ticket there. And we get to do that on every single show because every show has its own unique challenges. And when the team sort through it all, I mean, year after year, they just get, it's just great. I am so fortunate to have a fantastic team to work with. So.
It really does show. That actually leads us to a really great first question that we received in the Q&A from Emily, who asks, what are those qualities, attitudes, and actions that you found most helpful in your work? Maybe in addition to that fire, that passion that you're talking about just now.
I think being able to communicate. So as a person starting in a new company, and you're working on your own, but if you're stuck, you should be able to ask for help and not be afraid of doing that, because if you take a day and spin your wheel and then or end up doing the wrong thing, instead of stopping saying no, this doesn't look right, you make every effort to know what you're doing. But if you don't, you have a buddy. Do not be shy to go and ask, because everyone appreciates that, than to wait a whole day and then to have a delivery date here and then not, to say, oh my goodness. And I would say that being thorough and QC your work. Please, please, for the love of the craft, QC your work, because that's where you become invaluable. Because when things
And
get
Neisha, would you mind defining what QC is in case
Oh,
folks don't
absolutely.
know?
Quality control. So basically checking your work to make sure that, like for example, if someone has been swinging off the rope, right? And the rope is in the hair and all of that, and the rope is entangled in the hair, get in there and zoom in and make sure you get all of that out and get the rope out so that when they look at it, it passes the QC test, the quality control test. If you do that, you will be gold in any company. Showing up on time, being communicative. If you're stepping away from your desk, letting your production coordinator or manager know, like those are all things that you don't think about, because you graduate from school and you work one way, because I think in school a lot of times you get to call your own shots in terms of timing. But when you're in a studio, you have to be conscientious, and you have to ask for help, and you should create a positive energy with others as well, not be doom and gloomy, because what you do affect others around you and how people interact with you. So that's really a great question, and it's really a lot of soft skills and to take pride in your work.
I love that. Thank you so much for elaborating. Um, Emily also asks, can you share more about what processes you use to keep everything flowing and efficient? Because like you mentioned, there's a lot of moving pieces in this entire pipeline.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We use a Shock Grid is the name of a software that we use to track all of our shots. And it's really wonderful. It's a wonderful tool. And there are other tools out there, but Shock Grid is widely used in the industry because it's scalable. However many shots you have, it doesn't matter. But what it does, it tracks. So if you have, 200 artists working on one show, and in various departments, within each department, it tracks that, and it tracks every time they publish. Publish is when they have done the work, the changes, and they now want their supervisor to see it. So it tracks all of that, and then the supervisor will get a note and go in and be able to say, yes, this is approved, or no, I need you to tweak here. And then that's how that communication happens. It's really wonderful, and you should always have that. In the olden days, or in golden days, we used to use Excel as a tracking tool, but it's not, you know, if you have 10 shots, Excel will work, but when you have 200 or 400 or 1,000 shots, it doesn't.
Makes sense. That is a great software for folks to know, especially if they're really interested in production, because I think that is applicable to beyond just the VFX world.
Yes, for sure.
Amazing. I know we're right at time. Neishaw, do you have a couple more minutes to answer a few
Of
more
course I
questions?
do. Of
Okay.
course.
Fabulous. Let's see. There's Yo Honda who asks, for production managers, is that an entry-level job, or are those positions usually for people who have already worked through a pipeline position that move into admin?
Great question as well. So production managers cannot be entry level. It's not an entry level job because they're so key to production. So they've got to know production management. And now, do they need to know production management necessarily in VFX? Um, if they're really talented, no, simply because we could train them and they would train up quickly. But usually we prefer for a production manager to grow up from PA to coordinator, because why? Those steps need to be learned, because you're going to be teaching that to your coordinators and PA. And you don't want to skip a very important step. Otherwise, you don't even know what you don't know. And if you train, if you train at this level and you're missing all of this, you'll have a blind side, and you don't want to do that. So you want to be stable wherever, at whichever level you're at. But if you do have other production management or project management experience in other industries, we would take that into consideration. Like, for example, we did an HBO workshop where we trained 15 production coordinators. At the end, we hired a couple of them. They were from different industry. One was from an architectural industry. And, we're going to be putting her in the asset department, because why? You're building out buildings and all of that. So that knowledge will come to bear. So we look at different things, but I would suggest, if you know project coordination, you will learn, you should still go through the ringer, because if nothing, it'll be a refresher. And even if you stay there for 2 months and then you move into a production management, it will be better than just going for a production management, because there are steps that you don't know that is specific to our industry that you should know.
That's great. I love that those transferable skills are, something that is taken into consideration
Ah,
there. Daniel asks, so how many teams are involved in a production like this? I'm guessing like maybe with the SpongeBob movie.
yeah.
And with the tech department, how often do they help each team in the VFX department?
I'll answer the last one first, because the technical department helps out every single day. Probably every single hour of the day, because there's always something going on. There's something that cannot be rendered. There's something that's broken. There's something new that they need to initiate. They are extremely, and I cannot stress how extremely important and integral. These are our technical directors we have technical directors for different departments, and they work with the pipeline team and the systems team daily to make sure that we run smoothly, that as an artist, you are working at your best level in terms of systems efficiency and software efficiency. So very important. And in terms of how many people, like on a SpongeBob show, I would say that it was over 200 to 300 people on average at any given day. Because it was 20 some odd hundred shots on that show.
Incredible. Lou in the Q&A asks, is remote work possible on creative teams? I've read about creators who relocate from out of state and have productions shut down for whatever reason. Neishaw, what's your take on remote work?
course. And it's always sad when that happens. And I'm sure that no one ever wants to shut down a production. But when it does happen, it's devastating to everyone involved. And it's costly and, no one wants that. Um, so remote work, it depends on what it is. If it's something that you cannot get within your own city or country, then you do go out of house. And that's when remote work happens, especially when the tax credits are involved, which is a whole other thing that we probably should, that's another speaker series.
Mhm.
But it can happen often, like our head of creature, he is in LA, and he's our creature director, and his name is Simon, and he works out of LA. For us, the talent is very important and key, and we tend to go where the talent is. We do have a great team in Toronto, but sometimes we need specialized work, and for that, we would go out of house because you don't want to try to fit a square peg in a round hole by trying to use the staff you have when if they are not suitable. So, the decision makers on shows have to be smart about, who they're bringing in and why, and bring them in for the right reason. Or that's how I work anyways.
Great to know. Um, Lou also asks, do PAs go on to creative teams or more managerial positions? It seems like it might be a step backwards to go from PA to character design.
No, from PA to character design, you would, so they're two different things, right? If you are wanting to be a PA, you're not going to be a PA, it's because you want to be in production management. If you want to be in character design, you can be a junior character designer and show experience in that regard. So you wouldn't want to be a PA and move into character design. If I interviewed you, and I see that you've got a portfolio of designs, I would say, why would you want to be a PA? You wouldn't, you would not be happy with that. I would say you need to go and be in character design as a junior so you can work with the team and hone your skill. That would be the right place for you. If you feel you want to get into a company, then what we would do is say, okay, then maybe you can be, a PA in character design department initially so you can better understand, and then you can develop your own skill. But I wouldn't suggest you do that. I would suggest you go for what your heart is telling you. And now, some people want to be an animator, but you have to have a natural ability. And if you don't have that natural ability, don't keep doing that because it's not good for yourself or for the company, because you want to do something that you can be great at. If you work hard at it, you're going to be great at it, and you're going so that you will feel great. So people should be honest and say, okay, this is what I want to do. This is a skill I have, and this is how I can do it. So whoever it is you're talking to, they should feel comfortable in advising you properly, because it's not good for you to feel like, oh God, I'm never going to get it. That's not cool. But when you do it and you learn and you get the accolades, I mean, that's what it's about, right? Because you've worked hard and you deserve it.
All right. There is an anonymous attendee who asks what's the difference between a production manager and a production coordinator? Neishaw, are you able to
Of course.
kind of go into some of the tasks that a production
Yeah.
coordinator or a PA are responsible for?
Yeah, no, for sure. So a production manager is someone who works closely with the VFX producer and manages at the artist level all the departments. So he or she will set up the schedules for all the departments and for our deliveries to the clients, and will then work with coordinators doing various things. So for example, a production manager at our facility would be in charge of, say, SpongeBob show, working with the producer. Then that his or her job is to make sure that all the departments are delivering. And in order to do that, he or she has to work with production coordinators or PAs in order to make sure that they are working with the artists in each department. So production coordinators work with the department's artists, and the production manager work across all departments of the show and manages that. And the PA runs between different departments and will get asked to take notes maybe at a meeting, because there are a lot of note taking, a lot of direction, a lot of element, a lot of moving shots from one department. So those are things that, coordinators will ask a PA to do or do it themselves. But a production manager is responsible for the schedule with the producer and manages across all departments and reports up to the producer. And together, the two of them, run the show basically. Sometimes on shows, you may have more than one production managers. One may be responsible for the 3D department, and one may be responsible for the 2D department, meaning the compositing department, because you may have 30 people on a show in compositing, and you need someone to manage that with a production coordinator, because each artist needs attention. So if you think of all 10, 12, 14 departments, you need coordinators working with different departments. We have what we call front end and back end of 3D. So the front end of 3D would be considered tracking, layout, matte painting, animation. And then the back end would be considered, CFX, which is character effects, meaning if you have fur on someone, the fur is blowing and billowing, and effects and lighting, and then into compositing. So sometimes we split it up in that way. But production coordinators are department-based, usually working with the artists. Does that
Fantastic.
make sense, or do you need more?
I think that was a very thorough explanation. I feel like you've painted a very full picture of what it takes. I know we're almost 15 minutes over, so I will stop us here because I know a lot of folks have to hop off. But Neishaw, I just want to say thank you so much again for participating and joining us in this series. And for everyone who is still in attendance, this recording will be up on BRIC's YouTube channel. Kennedy, thank you for throwing the link in the chat there earlier. So feel free to subscribe as we'll put that up later this week. Neishaw and Pankti, thank you so much for joining and also for sharing your presentation. We'll make sure to bring that or to share that as a resource attached to the recording as well, so that anyone can go back and take a closer look at, which departments do what softwares are used at each stage. So thank you so much for compiling all of that for us.
Not at all, guys. Good luck and enjoy. And don't forget, you should have fun in what you're doing, okay? Take care, guys.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much,
much.
Sarah and Kennedy.
Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
So much.
Bye.